Really, this is, as I was telling a few of you before, let me ask this before we start. How many of you are investing in this, have invested, or investors in this property? Okay, most? How many of you were here? This is actually our third road trip that we've done here at Riverbend. We were here in mid-March of 2017, which was about 3 weeks after we bought the property. How many of you were here for that property, or for that road tour? Okay. I'm gonna pick on a couple of y'all that raised your hands. Is there any different feel from when you came in March 2017 as opposed to mid-May, here we are, 2018? I'm gonna pick on you.
It's a different property.
It's a different property? Yeah. I'm glad to hear that. As I was telling a few people, it's hard for me, when you're here every day or several days a week, it's hard to see. It's like watching your children grow up. It's been a gradual change for me, but if you were here, and we were here in March of 2017, then we were here again in October of 2017. October, we had really finished 90% of the exterior portion of the project, but of course we were still working on all the interiors. The intent of today is really just to kind of give you an update of where we are. And as you know, even from my last monthly report, I know we're a month behind. Ken's going to address that here in a minute, but you know, from my monthly report, we've really finished the entire CapEx project. That means every unit has been rehabbed, and all of the exterior portions of the project. The only thing that we've done in addition that was not done when you were here in October. So when Jeremy and I first started talking about this, I said, you know, Jeremy, there's not really a whole lot new to show them that they can see, but I just want to point out a couple of things. That the only thing that wasn't done in October when you were here last time is the drainage and the landscaping. And I'll point out a couple of things. If you look around, you'll notice that every single downspout on every single property is now running into the ground and running to the creek. We had a serious drainage problem here, and obviously as investors, we wanted to take care of that and protect the property long term. What we were having is, because of the way this property is kind of built in a bowl, if you look around, and you probably noticed it when you came, is that we were having water run underneath the buildings. These are pier and beam foundations. And what was happening, in fact, those of you who were here in March, remember some of the units we walked didn't even have floors in them. The reason they didn't have floors in them is because the water was running underneath the properties. It'd sit there all summer. It was like a sauna, 150 degrees under, and that baseboard would just rot from underneath. So part of our CapEx project obviously was to replace all the flooring. So Ken was very instrumental in helping me get take the right approach here and getting the drainage situation taken care of so that we don't have that issue anymore. But just know that all of the downspouts now are running to the creek. So that was something that wasn't done. And then the landscaping and then we may add still a little bit more landscaping. What I wanted to do is get it in, get it looking good. It's kind of the last thing you do. The timing was perfect, the spring. So I hope you see that the front of the office, even as you drove in on David Avenue, I hope you saw that it's a totally different look and totally different feel on the front of the property. We added several trees on the front. They're all crepe myrtle to match what was here. And then of course, you see what we've got out in the front. Before I go any further, I'm going to introduce I don't think any of these people need introduction, but I'm going to do it anyway. Everybody knows Jeremy back there, right? Yay. Okay. Mariana, too, I'd like to introduce when she comes back, but she's taking care of business this morning. Mariana is obviously our property, is the manager here on site and has done a fabulous job. I'm going to give you just a few numbers, and then I'm going to ask Ken to give you some numbers kind of on current situation. One of the things you've been getting from me in the monthly reports was just kind of what's called an at-a-glance report, and it was just kind of it was comparing the pro forma that you were given when you first started considering this investment versus how we were progressing each month to that pro forma. And I'm thrilled to say, as all of you know, if you're an investor on this property, you've been getting the emails from me, we continue to outperform the pro forma numbers, which is all great. It's great for all the investors, great for everybody. Again, Mariana deserves a lot of credit for that. Of course, Legacy, who helped us get the job done. Just real quickly, I'm going to give you, and again, these are just kind of some snippet numbers so that you kind of see where we were when we started the project. In March of 2017, pulling out my notes here, does anybody remember, I won't put you on the spot, The rent for a 675 square foot, 1-bedroom was $675 when we took over the property. Today, it's $870. Okay? We have 24 1-bedrooms, by the way. We have 84 2 and 1.5 bath, 888 square feet. That was $795 when we took over. That is now $1,100. Okay. The townhomes, which there's only 4 of in here, it's still 2 1.5, but it's a little bit different layout, was $850. That is now $1,200. I'm hoping that's a good oh my God over here. And last but not least, we have 48 3-bedroom, 2-bath units. Again, that was $895 on the day we took over. That is now $1,250. So it'll give you an idea. You knew, I mean, that was the goal of the project, is to, and I'll just again remind you of just a few numbers. We paid right at $53,000 a door. We said we were going to put $20,000 per door into it, so all in we were going to be right at $75,000 per door. We did spend the $3.2 million. I hope you can see where it went. We're done with that. All parts of that are complete. So the next piece of our project, and I've talked to many of you on the phone, because several of you have called me and wondering when we're going to start this. But we will, literally what I've talked to Ken about is, now that we're through with CapEx, oh, I'm sorry, one other thing. You also know we had a fire on the property back in at the end of October, right at the beginning of November of 2017. Those will be turned over back to us, are leased for June 1. So those are now back in the fold for them to lease. But yes, I would tell you that August, September timeframe, we're going to be looking to do a refi of the property. Just as we do with all of the other properties, as Darwin does and the team does, we will come to you with the different scenarios. Okay? Usually majority, it's not a vote, you know that, but we want to make sure that everybody understands, here's kind of, where's everybody feel, you know, I'm trying to think of the last one we did, but or do you do a little bit less of an amount of refi and keep your distributions? Also understand that that affects our taxes because we reset the value, don't we, Ken, when we do a refi, so that, you know, a lot of moving pieces and parts to consider when we do that. But as we do that and work through with the broker, we will come back to you at a meeting. We'll talk about it, kind of get a feel where everybody is. Any questions before I say anything else in regards to any numbers, where we started back in March, where we are now? Yes, ma'am?
Do you have a guess as to what, if you sold it, what it would be per door right now? What the value is, I guess.
I don't want you to hold me to this, but yes, everybody probably here knows how to take your NOI and your cap rate and kind of get an idea. And everybody can do that because you get the numbers, you get the financial reports. But when I did it last night, because I knew somebody was going to ask me that question, we're at about $14.5 million valuation currently, today.
Yeah, which is what for door?
I expected more.
Well,
That turns out, I'm sorry, that turns out to be $92,000 a door.
Oh, wow. Okay,
Okay, that's the number I should have given you. I'm sorry. Okay. 160 units. So again, we pay 53. We're all in at about 75. That's about $92,000 a door. That's just me running off the numbers. So again, don't hold me to that. Of course, we would go to a broker. We would ask them to do an evaluation, so on and so forth. And so, any other questions in regards to the numbers? But I hope you like that number. I hope that's every bit of drainage from 35 to 67 and from 20 runs through this property. Everything was, you know, I told you it was kind of built in a bowl. This is the bowl, and this is where the drainage comes from. All the way from 20, 35, and 67, it runs through this property. So we have to keep it clean. And if there's anything in there, if there's any trash in there, it goes out quick. I'm sorry? Maintenance people take care of the trash. We have a new landscape company, and I haven't really talked to them about that, but hadn't been an issue yet. But we'll need some help with that to keep it down with the landscape company. Absolutely.
We're not the same. There was a problem. We didn't touch it. Just just so you know. Dillard immediately contacts them, and they've been working for quite a while to try and get it fixed. They've got most of it rectified. That's why there's a delay. They're going to have your March and April statements out. So we do them, and then from there they go to Brian Johnson, and he then, I don't know, he looks at them. He doesn't change anything. He writes the narrative, and they come out from there. So, but I know you're probably curious, and I was curious too. So let me just tell you, the income for both months, March and April, is the same. It's $158,000, which is right about budget, where it's supposed to be. The expenses, when we took over from Walker Holder, I don't know if you guys would know this, but whenever a new management company or a new person comes in, the vendors go through some kind of a frenzy, because Walker Holder sent out a letter and said, hey, we're no longer managing this property. If you have unpaid invoices, you better get them in, because you're not going to get them if you don't. So if you have $156,000 in March income and $158 in March, $158 in April, your March expenses, we try to figure out, okay, what do we do with these? Let's just take the hit all in March. And so what we did was we put them all into March. So your March expenses are around $84,000, $86,000. It went up in March and then back down to where it's supposed to be in April. It looks like we're going to remain there in May as well, but I haven't seen all the numbers for May. So income and expenses, that's kind of where you're at. 158 for March, 158 for April, 86 or so in expenses for March, 74 back in April. Everything's back to normal. The things that we're working, your occupancy is 97% occupied. You're trending 97 at the end of this month. You're trending 98 for the end of next month. I mean, they've got there is not a vacant apartment on this property that is not leased. Every single one. So they're working on notices, which is, from a management standpoint, exactly where we want them to be. The other half of this is, so what are we doing? Right now, we're looking at the income to see where can we grow it just a little bit more, and where is the money? The big bulk of our unforeseen income sets in late fees, which is like $4 grand a month, which is really kind of nice. I mean, I can't believe that many people pay late, but hey, at least they're paying the late fees. And the second half is in your gas rebilling. And so what you'll see, because I think as a transition goes through and the new people are in, they're going to start paying more of the utilities than the old people were. So that number is growing. And that's kind of like a cushion for me. If I'm meeting my income, I still want a little bit more. That leads us to expenses. On the expense side, we have issues. I have issues with water. I want the water bill to come down, so we're going to go through and put a lower flow aerator and shower heads in all the apartments. It's not a big expense. It'll take about a month to do. We're currently up around $55 a unit for water. We should be down closer to 40, and hopefully this will get us there. That'll be a big thing. And then also, I'm sure that there are leaks. People with running toilets, or their faucet drips or whatever. Everything's new, but that doesn't mean it's perfect. And if a toilet drips, or if a toilet runs, and and I don't mean it's running all the time. You're laying in your bed and you hear it come on, you know what I'm talking about, and then it goes off. That's $25 to $50 a month for any one of those. And so the goal is to try and research all those out. It'll also give us an opportunity to get a little peek as what's going on inside the apartments. So we're working on water. We're working on any other leaks and aerators, where they are at where they need to be for income. And now Brian, he's on me like white on rice. I mean, you guys have no idea. So he calls, he sees me yesterday or the day before, and he says, well, we're at $1.05, but what's the top of the market? How far can we go? Push farther, basically, is what he's saying. So I've ordered up a CoStar report, and if any of you have seen them, they're real extensive. They're like 20 to 150 pages. We're going to take a look at that and just see. We're currently at about $1.05, which was the target. There may be room. There was room left when we originally looked at this. I think you guys saw it. It was maybe $1.10 or. Brian, you remember what it was? Was it $1.10 or $1.20?
Well, it was $1. You mean
the top of the market? Yeah,
$1.18.
Yeah. So we're at $1.05. So there's probably some room. What I've asked the manager to do is to go through and look at all of the leases that are expiring from now until September. Why would I do that? The majority of the people that rented here rented through the summer. Okay, so their leases are expiring. I want to lock them down now and try and eliminate the turnover, at the same time achieving a rent increase. Now what we're going to do is we're not going to have them sign to where they start their lease now. We're going to have them sign a lease that automatically begins when their old lease expires. Now, whether you know it or not, it doesn't matter whether or not you have, in other words, they can sign into the future. They can commit themselves for the future right now. So they're just as bound here. The idea is to slow down turnover to make sure we don't have too many people moving. That is the biggest killer. Vacancy loss occurs, turnover expenses occur. So what we're going to try and do is lock down as many of those people as we can through the summer when their leases come up. At the same time, achieve a rent increase that is the next bounce from the $1.05 average to the market, whatever that is. Any questions? Oh, come on. Too much information? You'll see him next week. Okay.
Hey, just a comment.
Yeah.
You guys have done a phenomenal job here. We really appreciate it. Both of
It's
you.
Brian.
You know,
It's Brian.
It's a total team effort. Trust me, this, but it's a total team effort. We know your efforts with the rest of Darwin's properties and here too. So thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. I really appreciate the business. This was a little bit of a shock at first to take on his whole portfolio all at once. And my office staff, they're going nuts. I mean, Dillard, you got to kind of peek your head in the door and make sure he's not going to throw something at you when you come in, because it gets just crazy over there. But we're having a lot of fun, and thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. Anybody else?
No, our plan was, and the plan worked out great, is that the office obviously was very aggressive on giving notices because you can't turn a unit unless the unit is vacant. So that was the first thing, and as you know, sometimes it's easy to get that unit vacant, sometimes it's a little bit tougher to get it vacant. But the bottom line is, we worked that very diligently, giving notices. We wanted about 20 per month to be vacated. And then I gave 15 of those, and again, it's kind of a rolling, every week it rolled. We averaged a little over 15 per month. But when I gave it to Legacy, I expected 5 every week back to me. So if that gives you an idea, and they stuck to that schedule. So every week they would give me 5 more units, totally rehabbed, that I would give back to Mariana to lease. So I hope that answers your question. But the bottom line is, the people that were renting here before were not, in most cases, were not capable of meeting the new rent. So anyway, does that answer your question? Anything else? Y'all are easy on me today. Okay, I've also got food here. So the cooler has bottled water. So mostly because the drainage situation was just absolutely horrific, just terrible. But again, as I explained to you during the preliminary speech in there, is that we took care of the drainage issue. But yeah, this was all mud. I mean, literally in front was all mud. It literally was a mud pile is what it was, because again, the property was built in a bowl. You know, if you come back at give it another 2 or 3 months, and maybe the grass will take care of everywhere. We talked about doing this tour in April. I said, now give me 1 more month. Give me to mid-May so the grass will come in. I want it to look as best it can look. For those of you who didn't know, this is the burn unit. So it was the 4 apartments you see on the left-hand side of the breezeway. It started on the porch, not this one, but the one opposite. So the one on the back side, and again, we'll pass through here in just a minute. Started back there, roiled up. So those 2 on that side were the total guts. The upstairs unit you see here was the one that had smoke damage, and then that's where the pipe burst in early January, and then made the bottom one a total gut. So basically, because of the fire and the freeze, the 4 units on this side of this building. But you notice I said these 4, the fire didn't affect this side. So the power stayed on all the time here. The tenant stayed here. That's the reason we couldn't turn the water off, which we would normally do in a burn situation. So they're still working on it, as you see. And again, just want to point out a couple of things, because I catch a little bit of grief on this, but I hope you guys as investors appreciate this. You're not going to find another property that has French doors on it anywhere in the DeSoto market. You're just not going to find it. But if you drive this property, you'll see what a huge difference it makes. I wish I could show you one that still had the old sliding glass doors. You literally drive through the property. It's kind of what you would have expected in this market. But you ladies will really appreciate this. And you can needle your husbands or whoever's there with you, but they typically make the decision. When a family comes in and they want to see this part, they see the granite, and again, you'll see it. There's no granite in DeSoto market. There's none. Keep in mind, and some investors have actually called me and asked, why did we put that much money into it? I want to say this again, even though you've probably heard it from me 3 times. This was the dog of the entire market when we bought the property. It had a bad reputation. It was in horrible condition. There was really nothing good I could say about the property. We did not feel like this would be a successful property if we just got to the same level as everybody else. we knew that we had to go above and beyond and make this, if you come here first, you're not going anywhere else. If you went somewhere else and then you come here, you're not going anywhere else. And we hear that consistently from the tenants, specifically the female part of the group that's here. Said, you got granite? You got French doors? Can we go to the office and sign now? You bet we can. So you can't really see, but this is the unit where the fire started out here. This tenant was a hoarder, and I mean to the nth degree. The fire gear, they couldn't get in. Little funny story about that. They told me that the reason this entire building it gets to a combustible temperature, and because there was so much and a lack of oxygen, because there was no room in there, the fire could not spread. So that was probably the only thing that's still here from before. Again, would be the structure itself. Its openness. When we did the due diligence, one of the first things I did was walk around and talk to the tenants. Say, if there's one thing you could change here, what would it be? And they said, knock out that wall. We can't even get our couch in here when we move in. So they were lifting the couch up with ropes and pulleys to get it in through the balcony, which you can imagine what problems that was causing. But yes, every single wall was taken out as part of the project. What you've seen as a whole, if not, I'll turn the sound off and hand it back to the sound guys, and we can just chat if you want. Clubhouse. They're going to the clubhouse right now if you want to go. It is open. The door's open. They're walking in right there. Just go right over the bridge and you'll be there.
I encourage you to share this information. It's free information for everybody so that they can learn also. Like our Facebook page and subscribe to us on our YouTube channel, Darwin German Real Estate Investments, so that you can get all of the content. We go through everything, give it all away to you, educate you so that you can be informed and educated investors, and happy investing.